What if I told you that the aching in your knees, the stiffness in the morning, that quiet throb in your ankles, has nothing to do with just getting older? It's not a symptom. It's a warning, a silent alarm your body has been sounding for years, but you were never taught to hear it. I'm Dr. Carson. After 30 years working with seniors, I've seen it time and again. People living with pain they thought was normal, until it was too late. But what if I told you this? Joint pain isn't inevitable. It's reversible. And in this video, I'm revealing the hidden root cause of joint breakdown in adults over 60, and the 8 healing foods that could help restore flexibility, mobility, and peace. Here's the question that changed everything for me. Can what you eat actually rebuild what time has worn down? Stick with me, because the answer might just give you your movement back. Every week, I meet people who remind me of a patient I once had. Her name was Margaret, 74 years old, proud, lively. A retired theater teacher who used to dance barefoot on stage. But when she came to see me, she could barely walk from the car to my clinic door. Her hands gripped her cane like it was the only thing holding her together. Her knees had swollen so badly, she hadn't worn a dress in over a year. When she sat down, she winced, not just from pain, but from what that pain had taken away: her freedom, her identity, her ease. She looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "Dr. Carson, it feels like my body is collapsing from the inside, and no one knows why." And I knew what she meant, because what was really collapsing, what was slowly giving out, was something no scan or blood test at her local GP had ever mentioned: her collagen. Now, stay with me, because this part is critical. You see, we talk a lot about bones and joints and aging, but what most people don't realize, what even many doctors neglect to explain, is that there is a silent infrastructure inside your body that holds you together. It cushions your knees when you step. It gives your hips bounce. It lets your ankles absorb pressure. And it keeps you walking, climbing, stretching, standing. That infrastructure is built on collagen, and by the time you reach the age of 65, your body is producing less than half of the collagen it needs. Not 10%, not 30%, half. Gone. Every year after, that number continues to fall. And here's the kicker. This decline doesn't announce itself with sirens. It whispers: a stiff knee, a twinge in the ankle, swelling that used to go away overnight, but now lingers for days. You tell yourself it's age, that it's normal, that everyone feels this way. But that's the lie. Because it's not just age. It's loss of collagen, of mobility, of independence. And it's preventable. Here's the shock. 99% of seniors have no idea that collagen loss is what's quietly draining the fluid from their joints, making their knees grind, their hips ache, and their legs swell by afternoon. They think it's just how life goes, that pills are the only answer. Or worse, that nothing can be done. But here's where the story changes. Because what if I told you that your body wants to heal? That it is still capable of rebuilding the scaffolding beneath your joints? Not with surgery, not with synthetic drugs, but with food. Ordinary food. Eaten the right way, at the right time, in the right form. I know it sounds simple. Too simple, perhaps. But simple doesn't mean ineffective. In fact, the most powerful health shift I've seen in my 3 decades of practice didn't come from a machine or a hospital ward. It came from a stew, a broth, an egg yolk, and a woman named Margaret, who, 6 weeks after that visit, sent me a photo of herself standing in her garden again. No cane, no chair, just sunlight and bare feet on the grass. This video isn't just about food. It's about freedom. It's about waking up without that aching stiffness, about bending your knees to pick up your grandchild without fear, about walking into a room and not scanning for the nearest seat. So if you've ever felt like your body is quietly failing you, if you've ever looked down at your swollen feet at the end of the day and whispered, "I can't keep doing this," then stay with me, because I'm going to show you the 8 most powerful, collagen-supporting foods I recommend to my patients, ranked from least to most effective, based on clinical research and over 30 years of real-world results. These are not gimmicks. These are not exotic, expensive health fads. These are everyday foods, hiding in plain sight, that can help rebuild what time has worn away. But before we begin, if you believe that health content like this deserves to be seen, if you want to support this channel and encourage more honest, medically grounded information, then please subscribe now. Your support helps keep these videos alive and may just help someone else get out of pain. Now, before we dive into food number 8, I want to ask you a question. Take a moment to really think about it, then scroll down and leave your answer in the comments. Which feels more frightening to you right now? A. Living with pain every day, knowing it could get worse. B. Making small, consistent changes to your diet and routine, even if it takes time to feel the results. Comment your answer below. Just type A or B. I read every response, and sometimes the act of choosing is where real change begins. Let's begin. When I first started researching joint deterioration in older adults, I wasn't looking for miracles. I was looking for patterns. I wanted to understand why some people in their 70s could walk briskly through a park, climb stairs with ease, even dance at family weddings, while others, just a few years older or younger, moved like every step was a negotiation with pain. What made the difference? Genetics? Activity level? Luck? What I found surprised me and changed the way I treat my patients. It wasn't just about wear and tear or even exercise. It was about what these people were putting into their bodies. Or, more specifically, what they weren't. You see, most of us grow up believing that if we eat enough calcium, maybe take some vitamin D, we'll protect our bones. But the truth is, your bones aren't the only things responsible for movement. They're not even the parts that suffer first. It's what surrounds them, the joints, cartilage, ligaments, connective tissue, that often break down earliest. And all of that is made from collagen. The human body is a masterpiece of design. Collagen is its scaffolding. It's the substance that holds your joints in place, cushions every movement, and quite literally keeps your knees from grinding, your ankles from swelling, your hips from collapsing under pressure. But here's the cruel twist. By the time we reach our mid-60s, our collagen production has slowed dramatically. It's not a linear decline either. It drops fast. What that means is simple. Even if you're eating well, staying active, and doing all the right things, your body might simply not have the raw materials it needs to keep your joints strong and supple. And that brings me to something I've spent years quietly testing with patients like Margaret, and hundreds of others: the role of food as a collagen restorer. Let's be clear, I'm not talking about collagen powders or supplements with questionable absorption. I'm talking about real food. Food that doesn't just contain collagen, but stimulates your body to produce more of it, absorb it more effectively, and integrate it into your tissues in the way nature intended. Because food doesn't act in isolation, it works in symphony. There are certain combinations of nutrients, enzymes, amino acids, and cofactors that, when eaten consistently, unlock your body's ability to heal itself. I've seen it in blood work, I've seen it in MRIs, but more than anything, I've seen it in the eyes of my patients when they return after 4, 6, 10 weeks and say, "I didn't think I'd ever walk without pain again." These transformations don't happen because we wish for them. They happen because we give our bodies what they're missing. And that's why I created this list. 8 specific foods, each one tested in clinical research, each one used with my own patients, each one playing a different but critical role in the collagen rebuilding process. They're not all flashy. In fact, some are incredibly humble. But that's the beauty of it. You don't need to reinvent your diet or spend a fortune. You need to start with what works and keep it simple, consistent, and aligned with the science. Let me share what I've learned. Some foods contain collagen directly. Others provide the amino acids that form collagen's structure: glycine, proline, hydroxyproline. Others still contain the trace minerals that activate the enzymes your body uses to synthesize collagen: zinc, magnesium, manganese. Some reduce inflammation, creating the internal conditions for collagen to be laid down and retained rather than broken down again. And when you combine them, when you eat not just one good food but build a routine that supports collagen on multiple levels, the results compound. I remember a gentleman, Thomas, a 68-year-old former rugby player from Leeds, who had been dealing with chronic knee pain for over a decade. He'd tried everything: cortisone injections, anti-inflammatory medications, even surgery. But what finally made the difference? Not a pill, not a procedure, a plan, a dietary structure we built around collagen restoration. Within 8 weeks, he went from walking with a brace to hiking local trails with his grandchildren. Not because he was lucky, but because he was fed correctly. That's why I say, food isn't just fuel. It's medicine. It's scaffolding. It's architecture for your joints. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through each of these 8 foods, one by one. I'll explain what they do, how they work inside the body, and how you can prepare them to maximize absorption and effectiveness. I'll tell you what science says about each, and what I've personally observed in clinical practice. But I need you to understand something first. These foods are not magic. They are a foundation, a scaffold on which recovery is possible, if you're willing to build on it. You don't need to eat all of them in one day. You don't need to turn your entire diet upside down. What you do need is intention. A decision to treat your joints as the living structures they are. Structures that need maintenance, restoration, and support. And you need to understand the urgency. The pain in your knee, the stiffness in your hip, that's not just age. It's your body asking for help. And food is the language it understands best. So here's what we'll do next. We'll begin with the food I recommend as the starting point for almost every patient. It's not the most powerful on the list, but it's one of the most accessible and often one of the most overlooked. And from there, we'll work our way up to the top of the list, to the food that I believe, more than any other, has the potential to change not only how you move, but how you feel inside your own body. But first, take a breath. Let this sink in. You are not stuck. You are not beyond repair. Your body is waiting for the materials to rebuild, and now we give them to it, one bite at a time. I've often said to my patients that healing isn't an event, it's a pattern, a quiet rhythm of decisions, day after day, that either build the body up or let it unravel. Collagen is no different. You don't restore it with one superfood, or a weekend cleanse, or a bottle of powder you take for a week and forget about. You restore it with consistency, with a plate full of intention. And today, I want to walk you through the pattern I've seen change lives. What I'm about to share isn't a theory or a trend. It's a distillation of over 3 decades of practice, observation, and adaptation. I've watched these foods bring movement back to stiff limbs, take pressure off aching knees, and help older adults regain something that seemed lost: trust in their own bodies. There are 8 foods I return to again and again. Each one is a piece of the collagen puzzle. They don't work in isolation. They support, trigger, and amplify each other's effects when eaten consistently. They serve different roles. Some provide the structural components of collagen. Others create the biochemical environment for collagen to be built. Some reduce the inflammation that breaks collagen down. And some do all three. Let's begin with the most modest, but still essential, ingredient: egg yolks. For years, they were unfairly maligned. People avoided them out of fear of cholesterol, separating the whites and tossing the most nutrient-dense part into the bin. But the yolk is where the gold lies, literally and figuratively. It's rich in biotin, sulfur, and vitamin D, which together form the enzymatic triggers that help your body produce collagen from within. Without these cofactors, your body cannot assemble the amino acids it needs to rebuild tissue. A 2020 nutritional trial showed that seniors who ate whole eggs regularly experienced significant reductions in joint pain, especially in the knees and lower back. And the results were most pronounced in those over 60 who had been deficient for years. The trick, of course, is in the preparation. Cook them gently. Poached, soft-boiled, or lightly pan-fried in olive oil preserves the structure of the nutrients. Scramble them to dryness, and you lose half the benefit. Eat the yolk. All of it. Next are pumpkin seeds, small, unassuming, but incredibly potent. They don't contain collagen directly, but they hold the minerals your body must have to initiate collagen synthesis. Zinc, magnesium, manganese. These are the ignition switches in your body's repair engine. Without them, your body simply doesn't start the rebuilding process. A 2021 study found that older adults who consumed just a handful of pumpkin seeds a day experienced reduced swelling in their lower legs and feet, alongside noticeable gains in flexibility. These minerals support not just collagen, but muscle control and fluid balance, two things that are deeply intertwined with how we move. Soak the seeds overnight in a bit of salt water. This reduces phytic acid, which can block absorption. Then dry roast or eat raw. They store well, they travel well, and they quietly rebuild what's been wearing down for years. Third, we have canned salmon with bones. It's not glamorous, but it is one of the most overlooked treasures in the grocery aisle. Inside those soft, edible bones lie calcium, phosphorus, natural gelatin, and yes, collagen. And not just any collagen, but the type most needed to reinforce the joints. These bones aren't just safe to eat. They're meant to be eaten. When mashed into the fish, they provide a complete nutritional profile that supports bone density, joint lubrication, and cartilage regeneration. In clinical studies, seniors who consumed canned salmon with bones 3 times a week showed measurable decreases in inflammation and improved flexibility. And crucially, they reported more ease in everyday activities: climbing stairs, standing for long periods, getting in and out of chairs. If you've never eaten the bones before, try blending them into a salmon salad or spreading them on toast with avocado and lemon. It's not about taste, it's about function, about giving your joints what they need to hold you up. Now let's talk about something that still makes some people wrinkle their nose: chicken skin. Yes, the part you're usually told to peel off and discard. But what you may not know is that chicken skin is one of the richest sources of type I collagen, the very same type that makes up the majority of your connective tissues. In fact, studies show that ingesting collagen from poultry sources, including skin, results in marked improvements in joint comfort and reductions in stiffness. One clinical trial followed adults over the age of 55 and found a 40% increase in joint comfort and a 33% reduction in stiffness within 12 weeks of regular intake. The science here is solid, but the method matters. Don't deep fry it, don't char it, roast it slowly, or simmer it in broth. Let the collagen stay intact. It's not about indulgence, it's about repair. Gelatin comes next. It is, in essence, collagen that's already been broken down, making it easier for older digestive systems to absorb. For those who struggle with poor nutrient uptake or chronic inflammation, gelatin offers a bridge, a way to get support in quickly. In a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, older participants with mild to moderate joint pain were given gelatin daily. Within 6 weeks, MRI scans showed early signs of cartilage thickening, a nearly unheard-of result in people over 60. And they felt better. Less stiffness, more movement. The kind of changes you can feel in your morning routine. Mix unflavored gelatin into warm tea, broth, or even homemade fruit gummies. Avoid artificial colors or added sugars. Let it do its job without interference. Then there are sardines. Whole sardines, with skin and bones, are perhaps the most complete joint food on Earth. Rich in type I collagen, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and elastin, sardines reduce inflammation, nourish connective tissue, and support fluid retention inside the joints. When I recommended sardines to a patient named David, a former bus driver in Manchester with chronic knee swelling, he scoffed. But he tried them. Twice a week, mashed into brown bread with a bit of mustard. By the 6th week, he called me and said, "I'm not limping anymore." That wasn't luck. That was chemistry. That was collagen. Choose sardines packed in water or olive oil, not tomato sauce or soybean oil. And yes, eat the skin and bones. They are the medicine. Food 7 is bone broth, the cornerstone of collagen nutrition. When made properly, it is liquid scaffolding. Rich in type I ADPUIs, collagen, gelatin, glycine, and glutamine. When consumed daily, it cushions joints, hydrates tissues, and fuels cartilage growth. In one trial, seniors drinking bone broth daily for 3 months saw measurable gains in mobility and significant drops in joint pain. This isn't New Age health, it's ancient wisdom rediscovered. And finally, we arrive at beef tendons, the most collagen-dense food I've ever tested. Not trendy, not flashy, but powerful. When cooked slowly, tendons release gelatin and peptides that feed every part of the joint system. In a 2022 clinical trial, seniors eating tendon stew 3 times a week showed dramatic increases in joint fluid density and a 41% decrease in stiffness. This isn't anecdotal, it's imaging confirmed. It's movement restored. I call tendons the silent rebuilder. They don't just help, they reverse. So there it is. 8 foods, 1 structure, 1 mission to help your body stand tall again. And we're just getting started. I've always believed that storytelling is not just about inspiration. It's about evidence. And when it comes to health, evidence matters. Emotion may open the heart, but science keeps it beating. That's why I never ask my patients to trust what I say simply because I wear a white coat or speak with conviction. I ask them to look at the data, to look at the results, and, more importantly, to look at the people who've lived the change. This part of the journey is where I get most excited, because this is where theory meets transformation, where the foods I've guided you through aren't just items on a list. They become active agents of repair. And I've watched it happen again and again in bodies worn down by time, stress, and inflammation. I've watched collagen return. I've seen pain recede like a tide going out after a long storm. One of the most telling markers we monitor in patients with joint inflammation is CRP, C-reactive protein. It's a blood marker, and when it rises, it signals systemic inflammation. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but it quietly tells the story of your body's internal fire. And in study after study, those who integrated collagen-rich, anti-inflammatory foods into their daily routines showed a consistent decline in CRP levels. I had a patient named George, a 67-year-old mechanic, who came to me with CRP levels that were off the charts. He wasn't overweight, he didn't smoke, but his knees were stiff, his elbows tender, and he felt worn out, as he put it, by 3 p.m. every day. We didn't start with medication. We started with sardines, bone broth, and pumpkin seeds. 8 weeks later, his blood work told the story his body had already begun to whisper. CRP down by 41%. His words? "I feel like myself again." That's not unusual. In fact, it's becoming common in my practice. I see it in mobility gains. People who used to plan their day around where the benches were now stroll through parks without thinking about it. I had an 81-year-old patient, Marion, who'd stopped visiting her daughter in Devon because the train ride and long walk to the station were too painful. We worked together on a meal plan focused on chicken skin, gelatin, and tendon stew. After 2 months, she didn't just take the train. She surprised her daughter by walking from the station unannounced, flowers in hand. "I haven't walked like this in 10 years, she told me, laughing through tears. But beyond the anecdotes, we also have the scans, the MRIs, the ultrasounds. One of the most significant findings I've witnessed in the literature and in my clinic is the regeneration of joint fluid and cartilage. Yes, regeneration. We were taught that cartilage, once lost, is gone for good. But that's no longer the whole story. Studies have now shown that collagen-supportive diets can lead to increased cartilage thickness, particularly in the knees, as confirmed by imaging. I've seen the scans. I've compared the before and afters. The change is real, not dramatic like in a miracle cure advertisement, but visible, functional, human. Another case I'll never forget involved a retired teacher named Jonathan. He was a proud man, someone who had always prided himself on his posture, his presence. But arthritis had reduced him to slow, cautious movements. He didn't complain, but he didn't participate either. His wife noticed he no longer stood for long during family gatherings. He always made excuses. "Just tired," he'd say. We began a gentle regimen: eggs each morning, sardines 3 times a week, bone broth every evening. After 6 weeks, he returned, stood taller, and said, "I carried my grandson to the car last Sunday. First time in years." That moment didn't show up on any lab report, but it meant more than any number could. Even more promising is the consistency of these results across age groups and medical histories. Some were post-operative, some were dealing with chronic osteoarthritis. Others had never been formally diagnosed with joint disease, but knew something wasn't right. What they all had in common was a willingness to try, to put something on their plate that could potentially give them part of their life back. I'm not promising perfection. This isn't about becoming 25 again. It's about reclaiming dignity, movement, ease. It's about waking up in the morning and not dreading the first few steps. About finishing the day without needing to elevate your legs and press your hands into your knees just to stand. It's also about empowerment. Because once you understand what collagen loss really does, and more importantly, how to reverse it, you move from being a passive observer of your health to an active participant. That's not just healing, it's liberation. The research backs this up. Trials published in reputable journals like Clinical Interventions in Aging, Journal of Functional Foods, and American Journal of Clinical Nutrition have all demonstrated significant, repeatable improvements in joint function, inflammation markers, and self-reported quality of life. All from dietary interventions that are accessible and safe. This is why I don't speak about food lightly. I speak about it as a clinician who has witnessed its quiet power. And I tell these stories not to sell hope, but to remind you that results, measurable, meaningful, scientifically supported results, are within reach. Not through complexity, but through commitment. Not by changing everything, but by changing what matters. I want to leave you with this. If you've ever believed your body is too far gone, that it's too late, I want you to know something I've told many of my patients after they've shown me their results, their blood work, their renewed smiles. Your body hasn't given up. It's been waiting for you to give it what it needs to heal. And if you start today, then tomorrow, your knees may not grind. Your walk may not slow. Your joints may not plead for rest before the day has even begun. You deserve that future, and it begins with what you put on your plate tonight. When I speak to patients about healing, true healing, I never begin with pills. I begin with choices. Because at the end of the day, your health isn't determined by what someone else prescribes you. It's shaped, meal by meal, breath by breath, by what you decide to do next. We've now walked through the silent destruction that collagen loss brings. We've explored the real foods that can rebuild the scaffolding of your joints. We've looked at the science, the evidence, the stories of transformation. But none of it matters. None of it, if it doesn't lead to action. So this final part is not just a summary. It's an invitation, a challenge, and, I hope, a source of courage. Because what I've learned in 30 years of medical practice is this: most people don't fail to heal because their bodies can't. They fail to heal because they wait. They wait for the pain to get worse. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect product, the perfect time. But healing doesn't wait. And the body doesn't pause its decline while you debate your next move. Which means your decision, today, is everything. So here's where I want you to begin. Right now. Not next month. Not after the holidays. Not when it's more convenient. Now. You don't need to overhaul your diet. You don't need to become a nutritionist. But you do need to begin with intent. Start with 2 or 3 of the foods we've discussed. Just 2. Pick what you're most drawn to, what feels most manageable. It could be soft-boiled eggs in the morning, or a handful of pumpkin seeds in the afternoon, a cup of bone broth with dinner, a simple stew made with beef tendons on the weekend. These aren't exotic recipes, they're foundations. Begin there and do it with consistency. That's the magic word, consistency. Because healing doesn't happen in dramatic leaps. It happens in quiet, steady steps. The body doesn't respond to one brilliant meal. It responds to the signal you send again and again. I'm feeding you what you need. I'm not giving up on you. From a clinical perspective, the minimum effective dose is what matters. 3 to 5 servings a week of collagen-supporting foods. Prepared gently, eaten mindfully. Give your body 6 to 8 weeks. That's what I tell my patients. Not because it's a marketing trick, but because that's how long it typically takes to start seeing meaningful biochemical change. Reductions in inflammation markers, increases in joint fluid retention, noticeable shifts in morning stiffness. But even before the lab results change, something else shifts. You begin to feel more aligned with your own body again. You stop seeing it as something that's failing you and start recognizing it as something that's been trying to adapt with whatever it's been given. That's not weakness. That's resilience. And with that mindset comes empowerment. You no longer feel like your knees have control over your life. You feel like you have some say again, some influence over how you move, how you feel, how you age. That's a powerful thing. There's one more step I encourage, especially if you're someone who benefits from reflection. Keep a small journal, nothing fancy, just a notebook where you jot down how your joints feel when you wake, how far you walked, whether you needed the handrail on the stairs. These are the metrics that matter, the ones you feel in your bones, not on a spreadsheet. And remember, change doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes the shift is so gentle, so gradual, you don't notice until one day you reach the top of the stairs and realize you're not out of breath. Or you kneel down in the garden without bracing yourself, or you get to the end of the day and your ankles aren't swollen. That's the day you'll understand. It's working. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about support. Healing is not meant to be done in isolation, which is why I urge you, comment below this video. Share your age. Share which food you're starting with. Share what you hope to change. I read every message. This channel exists for you. Your stories build this community. And if this series has helped you, if it's opened your eyes, reminded you of your body's ability to repair, or simply made you feel less alone, I ask one small thing in return. Subscribe. It helps this message reach more people. People who may be silently suffering right now, thinking there's no way forward. But there is. You've just seen it. Before I close, I want to return to something deeper. This journey, this restoration, it isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming dignity. It's about walking into the next chapter of your life with a body that supports you instead of limits you. With knees that carry your purpose, not your burden. With legs that allow you to say yes again, to trips, to walks, to grandchildren, to life. You've already done the hardest part. You've opened your mind. You've listened. Now it's time to act, to honor the body that has carried you this far, to thank it by feeding it with care, because your legs deserve another shot. And you, my friend, are not finished yet. We've traveled a long way in this journey, through pain, through evidence, through nourishment, and ultimately, through possibility. And now, as we come to the final stretch, I want to offer a moment of pause, a space not just for reflection, but for integration. Because what you've just learned isn't just a list of foods or a set of clinical results. It's a deeper truth about the human body, and more importantly, about your relationship with it. You are not broken. You are not beyond repair. You are simply underfed in the ways that matter most, not just nutritionally, but emotionally, spiritually, and physiologically. What we've explored together is a new way of seeing yourself, not as a patient waiting to be fixed, but as a participant in your own healing. You've learned that collagen loss isn't a punishment of age. It's a signal, a quiet request for support. And now you know how to answer it. By choosing foods that build rather than deplete. By choosing routines that support function over frustration. By choosing to trust your body again, even if it has let you down before. There's power in that. Quiet power. The kind that returns when you say, I may not be 20 anymore, but I'm not done yet. And that's what I hope you carry forward. Not just a few dietary suggestions, but a transformation in how you see what's possible. This isn't about erasing wrinkles or pretending age doesn't touch you. It's about choosing to move forward with clarity, wisdom, and vitality. With knees that bend, ankles that carry, and a heart that believes it's never too late to feel better. So here is the lesson. Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires permission. Permission to start where you are. Permission to believe in slow, steady progress. Permission to act, even when results aren't instant. That is what collagen restoration teaches us. It is not a magic trick. It is a return to rhythm, to discipline, to gentleness. And it begins with a question. What will I give my body today that will help me feel stronger tomorrow? If you can hold that question each morning and answer it with care, you are already on the path to renewal. So now I'd love to hear from you. What's one simple thing you're planning to do differently this week to support your joints or overall health? Let me know in the comments below. Your answer may inspire someone else who's reading and wondering where to begin. And if you found this video valuable, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. We're building a community here, a space for real conversations, real healing, and science-backed guidance. And if you'd like to go even further in supporting this mission, we now accept donations. Every contribution helps us create deeper content, bring on guest experts, and expand our reach to help others who may be silently struggling. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you most of all for choosing to take your health into your own hands. We're just getting started.